Hello, everyone. Welcome to English in Advance. I'm Jessica, your host for today. Are you ready to take a truly significant step forward? I'm not talking about the usual classroom methods of memorizing another long list of vocabulary words or trying to untangle a complicated grammar rule. Today we are going to do something much more practical, much more immersive, and much more real. We are going to explore the vast and vibrant world of conversational English, the living, breathing language that people use every single day. Have you ever had that specific feeling, the one where you understand English perfectly when you're reading a book or maybe watching a movie with the comfort of subtitles, but the moment you step into a real-life situation, a bustling cafe, a fast-paced meeting at work, or just a simple chat with a native speaker, you suddenly feel as if you're lost in a fog? The words seem to fly past your ears like speeding cars on a highway, and the expressions people use sound absolutely nothing like the carefully structured sentences you learned in school. If you've ever felt this wave of confusion or a dip in your confidence, please take a deep breath and know that you are not, by any means, alone. This is a very common, almost universal challenge for English learners at your level, and it is precisely this gap between textbook knowledge and real-world fluency that we are going to bridge together in this session. In today's immersive practice, we will embark on a journey through several detailed stories. These are stories about people just like you, learners who found themselves in tricky, sometimes confusing, and even quite funny situations while navigating the unpredictable currents of everyday English. By listening closely to these narrative accounts, you will immerse yourself in authentic, everyday conversations. My goal is for you to learn not just what individual words mean, but how they are used in context, how they sound when spoken naturally, and the subtle emotions and intentions they carry. This is far more than just a listening exercise. It is designed to be a strong bridge, connecting the theoretical English stored in your head with the practical, dynamic English of the real world. I warmly encourage you to find a comfortable space, relax, listen with an open and curious mind, and when I prompt you, please don't be shy. Repeat the phrases out loud. The physical act of speaking the words is just as important as hearing them. It helps to build and strengthen the neural connection between your ears, your brain, and your mouth, making your responses quicker and more natural over time. So with that in mind, let's begin. Let's start our journey with the story of a young man named Leo. Leo was a wonderfully talented graphic designer from Brazil who had been diligently studying English for many years. He had reached a point where he felt quite confident in his abilities. He could read complex articles on design blogs, write professional emails to international clients, and according to his online tests, he had a solid B2 level on paper. For his first major trip abroad, a reward to himself for his hard work, he chose to visit the enchanting city of Dublin, Ireland. He was incredibly excited to see the legendary green landscapes he had only seen in pictures, to explore the historic cobblestone streets of the city, and most importantly, to finally practice his English with the famously friendly native speakers. On his second morning after a refreshing walk, he decided to visit a small, cozy-looking cafe he'd spotted near his hotel. The moment he stepped inside, the air embraced him. It was warm and smelled heavenly of roasted coffee beans and sweet, freshly baked pastries. Behind a sparkling glass counter, he saw a delicious-looking pastry, a treat he recognized instantly from his English food vocabulary lessons. It was a scone. He waited patiently in the short line, mentally rehearsing his order over and over in his head. "Hello. Can I have one scone and a black coffee, please?" It seemed simple enough. When it was his turn, a friendly barista with vibrant red hair tied up in a messy bun and a genuinely warm smile asked him, "Morning. What can I get for you?" Leo smiled back, feeling a surge of confidence. This was it, his first real unscripted interaction. He said, "Hello. Can I have one? Scone ? He pronounced it with a short, sharp O sound, exactly as he had always reasoned it should sound based on its spelling. The barista's welcoming smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. She tilted her head, a puzzled expression clouding her friendly face, and asked, "Sorry. What was that, love?" Leo felt a small, cold knot of anxiety begin to tighten in his stomach. The confidence he felt just moments before started to evaporate. He pointed at the pastry through the glass and repeated, a little louder this time, trying to be clearer, "A scone." She leaned closer to the glass, her brow furrowed in concentration, and then a bright look of realization dawned on her face. "Oh, you mean a scone," she exclaimed, her voice lilting as she pronounced it with a long, elegant O sound, the same sound as in the words cone or phone. "Of course," one scone coming right up. "Would you like any butter and jam with that?" Leo felt a profound wave of relief wash over him, so intense it almost made him dizzy, but it was immediately followed by a hot flush of embarrassment. It was such a simple, common word. How could he have been so wrong about something so basic? He just nodded, paid for his scone, and retreated to a small wooden table by the window. As he sat there watching the Dublin morning unfold outside, he thought deeply and critically about what had just happened. It was his first truly practical lesson in conversational English, and it was a powerful one. Pronunciation can change absolutely everything. The way a word is spelled in English is not always a reliable guide to how it actually sounds. This is especially true when it comes to vowel sounds, which can be incredibly tricky and vary wildly from word to word. That tiny difference between a short O and a long O had transformed a word he knew well into something completely unrecognizable to a native speaker. This small but significant experience highlights a crucial aspect of effective listening practice. It's not just about recognizing a word's meaning, it's about attuning your ear to the specific sounds, the intricate rhythms, and the unique stresses of spoken English. In many other languages, the relationship between spelling and sound is beautifully consistent and logical. In English, however, it's a bit more chaotic and at times seemingly random. Just think for a moment about the words through, though, tough, and beau. They all share that oaf spelling, yet they each have a completely different pronunciation. This is precisely why immersive, extensive listening is so incredibly powerful. The more you listen to native speakers, whether in podcasts, movies, audiobooks, or real conversations, the more these complex sound patterns become familiar and ingrained in your mind. You begin to develop an intuition, a feel for how words are supposed to sound, allowing you to move beyond the rigid and often misleading rules of spelling. Let's take a moment to put this idea into practice. I'm going to say a common phrase you might hear in any cafe around the world. I want you to close your eyes if you can and listen carefully not just to the words, but to the sounds and the musicality of the phrase. Then, I want you to repeat it out loud. Are you ready? Could I get a flat white to go? Let's break that down into its sonic components. Notice how could I often blends together to sound almost like a single word, could I. The words get a are linked and reduced, sounding like getta, and the phrase to go is spoken with a clear downward intonation at the end, signaling that the request is complete. The rhythm isn't flat and robotic. It has peaks and valleys, a natural cadence. Listen one more time. Could I get a flat white to go? Now it's your turn. Try repeating it, mimicking the rhythm and the linked sounds. Say it out loud. Wonderful. This is the essence of active listening, paying attention not just to the vocabulary, but to the music of the language. Leo's little mistake with the scone was not a failure. It was a valuable and unforgettable lesson. It taught him that to truly communicate effectively, he needed to listen more intently and consciously connect the words he knew on paper with the rich tapestry of sounds he heard in the real world. Now let's travel across the Atlantic, from a casual cafe in Dublin to the sleek, high-energy environment of a professional office in Toronto, Canada. Our next story is about a brilliant software engineer named Isabella. Originally from Italy, Isabella had worked incredibly hard to secure a fantastic job at a fast-growing tech company in the heart of the city. Her technical skills were undeniably exceptional, and her written English was, for all intents and purposes, flawless. She could write complex code documentation and craft detailed project proposals with impeccable grammar and a sophisticated vocabulary. She arrived in Canada feeling thoroughly prepared and incredibly excited to contribute her skills to her new team. However, during her very first week of team meetings, she began to feel a disconcerting sense of disorientation, as if she were listening to a completely different language, one she had never studied. Her manager, a dynamic and articulate woman named Chloe, would lead the meetings with phrases that left Isabella utterly perplexed. "Okay, team," Chloe would say. "It's crucial that we're all on the same page before we move forward with the launch. Let's touch base tomorrow morning at 9 to finalize the details." Isabella would frantically scribble these strange phrases in her notebook. On the same page? She wondered. Did she need to find a specific page in a document they were all supposed to be reading? Touch base? Her mind immediately went to baseball, a sport she knew very little about. Was this some kind of Canadian sports metaphor? She was too shy and intimidated to ask for clarification and risk interrupting the fast flow of the meeting, so she just nodded her head and smiled, pretending to understand, all the while hoping she could figure it out later from the context. The confusion, unfortunately, only grew. A senior colleague named Noah, trying to encourage creative thinking, suggested, "If we really want to solve this bug, we need to think outside the box." Isabella's literal mind immediately pictured a physical box, and she couldn't fathom what it had to do with software development. Later that day, another colleague sent a message in the group chat. "I'll circle back to you with the data by the end of the day." Isabella imagined him walking in a literal circle around his desk. It all felt like nonsense. After a particularly dense and jargon-filled meeting on Friday afternoon, Isabella felt completely overwhelmed and deeply discouraged. She knew every single individual word they were saying: circle, back, page, base. These were easy words, but when they were strung together in these strange, seemingly illogical combinations, they were meaningless to her. She felt her confidence, which had been so high just a few days prior, begin to crumble like a dry leaf. That afternoon, feeling she had nothing left to lose, she gathered her courage and approached Noah, the colleague who had spoken about the box. She explained her situation honestly, admitting in a quiet voice that she was struggling to understand many of the common expressions used in the office. Noah's reaction was one of immediate kindness and understanding. He smiled warmly. "Oh, please don't worry about that at all," he said reassuringly. "We use a ton of idioms and business jargon around here. I can see how it would be confusing. It's like a secret code until someone gives you the key." He then generously took a few minutes to sit with her and explain the phrases she had heard. To be on the same page, he explained, simply means to have the same understanding or to be in complete agreement about something. When we touch base, we're just making a quick contact to catch up or check on the status of something. Thinking outside the box means thinking creatively and unconventionally, not in the usual expected way. And when I say I'll circle back to you, it just means I will get back to you later with an answer or the information you need. Suddenly, as if a light had been switched on in a dark room, everything clicked into place for Isabella. These weren't random, confusing sentences at all. They were idioms, phrases where the overall meaning is figurative and cannot be deduced from the literal meaning of the individual words. This is a massive component of conversational English, not just in the workplace, but in all aspects of life. Almost every native speaker uses dozens of idioms every single day without a second thought. For a learner, this can be one of the biggest hurdles to overcome. You can possess a massive vocabulary of individual words, but if you don't know these common fixed expressions, you can easily get lost in the flow of a conversation. Isabella's story teaches us a vital lesson for improving our listening skills, particularly as we move from an intermediate to an advanced level. As you listen to English, you need to actively train your ear to catch these unique phrases. When you hear a combination of words that doesn't seem to make any literal sense, it's highly probable that you've encountered an idiom. The most effective way to learn them is not by trying to memorize a long, disconnected list from a book, but by hearing them used naturally in a specific context. When you hear a character in a TV show exclaim, "Wow, that new car must have cost an arm and a leg," and you see them looking at a very expensive luxury vehicle, your brain makes a strong, memorable connection. You intuitively understand that the phrase means it was very expensive. Isabella developed a new, proactive strategy. During meetings, she kept her notebook open and would quickly write down any unfamiliar expressions she heard. Later in the day, she would either ask Noah for a quick explanation or look them up online to understand not just their meaning, but also the typical situations in which they are used. She also made a conscious effort to start watching business-related TV shows like Shark Tank and listen to podcasts about the tech industry. Slowly but surely, the secret code of office English began to feel less like a barrier and more like a tool she could use herself. A few months later, during a crucial brainstorming session for a new product, her manager asked for some fresh ideas. Isabella took a deep breath and said, "I have a suggestion. If we want to reach a younger audience, we might need to think outside the box and explore marketing strategies on platforms like TikTok." Her manager smiled, genuinely impressed. "That's a great idea, Isabella." Let's explore that further. In that moment, Isabella felt a profound sense of accomplishment and belonging. She hadn't just learned a new phrase. She had learned to speak the language of her team, fluently and confidently. Let's practice one of these common business idioms together. I want you to listen carefully and then repeat it, trying to capture the professional but friendly tone. Let's put a pin in that for now. Let's try it one more time. Let's put a pin in that for now. This is a very useful phrase in meetings. It means we should pause the discussion of a particular topic, not because it's a bad idea, but so we can come back to it at a later time. It's a polite and efficient way of saying, "That's a good point, but it's not our main focus right now, and we need to stay on track." By practicing these kinds of phrases, you not only improve your listening comprehension, but you also build a valuable toolkit of expressions that will make you sound more natural, fluent, and professional in work-related situations. From the structured corporate world of an office, let's now head outdoors again, this time into the bright, sun-drenched and bustling city of Sydney, Australia. Our next story is about Mateo, a bright university student from Spain who was spending an exciting semester abroad. Mateo had an adventurous spirit and was eager to explore every corner of his vibrant new city. One gloriously sunny Saturday, he decided to make the iconic trip to the world-famous Bondi Beach. He checked the map on his phone, which gave him a general idea, but he was a bit unsure about which specific bus stop was the correct one to wait at. He saw a man leaning against a wall, looking relaxed and approachable in shorts and a t-shirt, so he decided to ask for some local help. "Excuse me," Mateo began politely. "I'm trying to get to Bondi Beach. Is this the right bus stop?" The man, who had a distinctly strong Australian accent, smiled a wide, friendly smile and replied, "Yeah, mate, you're in the right spot. The 333 will take you straight there. It'll be here in about 5, but it can get pretty packed this Arvo, so be ready to jump on quick." Mateo's brain went into overdrive, struggling to process the rapid-fire delivery. He clearly understood right spot and bus 333, but the rest of the sentence was a confusing blur of fast-spoken, blended words. The man had spoken so quickly, his words flowing together without any clear separation. What did "take ya" mean? And what in the world was an Arvo? Mateo just stood there, a look of complete and utter confusion painted on his face, feeling completely lost despite being in the right spot. The man, being quite observant, noticed his bewildered expression and let out a friendly chuckle. "Sorry, mate. Spoke a bit fast there, didn't I? Let me slow down for you. The bus. Number 333 will take you right to the beach," he said, carefully enunciating each word this time. "It should arrive in about 5 minutes, but it might be very crowded this afternoon," he continued, emphasizing the key words. "Arvo is just our slang, what we call the afternoon here." A wave of relief and understanding washed over Mateo. "Oh, afternoon, I understand now. Thank you so much," he said, feeling immense gratitude for the man's patience and kindness. This short but impactful interaction was a huge learning moment for Mateo. The challenge wasn't just about new vocabulary like the slang word Arvo. It was about the fundamental speed, rhythm, and connected nature of natural, everyday speech. Native speakers, regardless of their accent, often use reduced forms and link their words together seamlessly. "Take you" becomes take ya. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. They don't do this intentionally to make it difficult for learners. It's simply a more efficient, fluid, and natural way to speak. For an English learner, however, this can be incredibly challenging. Your ear is often trained to listen for perfectly pronounced, distinct, separate words, as you would hear them in a language learning app. But real, authentic conversation is often a continuous, flowing stream of sound. So how can you effectively improve your ability to understand this kind of fast speech? The first and most important step is a mental one. You must accept that you won't understand every single word, and that is perfectly okay. You don't need to. The ultimate goal is to comprehend the main message. Instead of straining to catch each individual word, which can lead to panic and cause you to miss the entire sentence, try to focus your attention on the keywords. These are typically the nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, the words that carry the most significant meaning. In Mateo's case, the keywords were bus 333, beach, 5 minutes, and crowded. Even if he had missed all the other little words, these keywords would have given him the essential information he needed to successfully catch his bus. Another powerful technique for decoding fast speech is to pay close attention to intonation and stress. Intonation, as we've touched on, is the music of the language, the rise and fall of the voice when speaking. In English, we instinctively place more stress or emphasis on the most important words in a sentence. For instance, when the Australian man said, "The 333 will take you straight there," the vocal emphasis on 333 and straight acts like a signpost, telling the listener that these are the key pieces of information. Training your ear to listen for these stressed syllables can be a highly effective way to locate and extract the main message from a rapid stream of speech. Of course, the more you expose yourself to a wide variety of accents and speaking styles, the more comfortable and adept you will become. The Australian accent, with its unique slang and characteristic rising intonation at the end of statements, is markedly different from a classic British RP accent, a soft Irish accent, or a Southern American drawl. By consciously diversifying your listening material, listening to podcasts from different countries, watching news channels from around the world, enjoying interviews with people from various backgrounds, you are training your brain to become more flexible, adaptable, and resilient. You learn to anticipate and accept these variations as a normal part of the language, rather than being surprised or thrown off by them. Let's practice a simple, yet incredibly useful phrase related to this very situation. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can learn is how to politely and confidently ask someone to accommodate your learning needs. Repeat after me, trying to sound friendly and apologetic. "I'm sorry, my English isn't perfect. Could you please speak a little more slowly?" Let's try that again, really focusing on the polite tone. "I'm sorry, my English isn't perfect. Could you please speak a little more slowly?" Using a phrase like this shows that you are making a sincere effort, and the vast majority of people will be very happy and willing to adjust their speed to help you understand. Mateo's trip to the beach that day was a wonderful success, but the profound lesson he learned at that bus stop was even more valuable. He realized that understanding real conversational English was like learning to see the patterns in a fast-moving river. It was about focusing on the main currents of meaning, rather than getting overwhelmed by trying to catch every single drop of water. Having navigated the complexities of accents and the challenge of fast speech, let's now turn our attention to another common and often intimidating challenge: mastering the social maze of making small talk. This brings us to the story of Chloe, a bright and friendly exchange student from South Korea who was spending a full academic year at a university in the vibrant city of Manchester, UK. Chloe's academic English was truly excellent. She could write insightful, well-structured essays and could understand her complex sociology lectures without any problem at all. However, she was naturally very shy and found unstructured social situations incredibly difficult. She simply didn't know how to initiate conversations with her British classmates or what on earth to talk about once a conversation had started. One Friday evening, she was invited to a small get-together at her dormitory. She reluctantly went, hoping to make some friends, but she quickly found herself standing nervously in the corner of the crowded common room, clutching a cup of juice like a shield. She watched as groups of students laughed and chatted with an ease that seemed impossibly difficult to her. She desperately wanted to join in, but a thick wall of fear and uncertainty seemed to hold her back. What if I say the wrong thing? What if my accent is too strong? What if they think I'm boring, she thought. As she listened from the sidelines, she noticed that people seemed to be talking about things that felt, well, incredibly small. They were discussing the unpredictable weather, a popular TV show that had been on the night before, and their various plans for the upcoming weekend. It was a world away from the deep, intellectual conversations she was accustomed to in her academic life. Finally, a friendly-looking classmate named Liam, whom she recognized from her sociology class, approached her with a smile. "Hey, you're Chloe, right? I'm Liam. Bit of a crowded party, isn't it?" Chloe's heart started beating like a drum. She just managed to nod and squeak out, "Yes, it is." Liam, undeterred, kept trying to build a connection. "So, are you enjoying Manchester so far? It's a bit rainy most of the time, but it definitely has its charms." Again, Chloe responded with a simple, conversation-killing, one-word answer. "Yes." A deeply awkward silence hung in the air between them for a few moments. Liam, feeling a little discouraged by her lack of response, eventually said, "Well, it was nice to meet you," and drifted away to rejoin another, more lively group. Chloe felt a pang of regret. She had just missed a perfect opportunity to make a potential friend. She knew her one-word answers had effectively shut down the conversation before it even had a chance to start. Later that week, she mustered the courage to talk to her host family about her struggle. Her host mother, a wonderfully kind and wise woman named Susan, listened patiently before offering some wonderful advice. "Oh, love," she said with a warm smile, "you're thinking far too much about it." Small talk isn't a test or an interview. It's simply about making a small human connection. Think of it as building a little bridge between you and the other person. You don't need to say anything profound or clever. You just need to show that you're interested in them. Susan then explained some of the simple, unwritten rules of effective small talk. The first rule, she said, is to ask open-ended questions. Instead of asking questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, try to ask questions that begin with what, how, when, where, or why. For example, instead of asking Liam, "Are you enjoying Manchester?" Chloe could have asked, "What do you like most about Manchester so far?" This simple change would have invited him to give a much more detailed and interesting answer. The second rule, Susan continued, is to listen actively for hooks. A hook is a little piece of information that someone offers in their response that you can latch onto and ask a follow-up question about. When Liam mentioned the rain, that was a hook. Chloe could have responded by saying, "Yes, it's very different from the weather in Seoul. What do you do for fun on rainy days here in Manchester?" This demonstrates that you are actually listening to what they are saying and helps the conversation to flow naturally from one topic to another. The third, and perhaps the most crucial rule, is to volunteer some information about yourself and then skillfully pass the conversational ball back to the other person. A fantastic phrase for this is, "What about you?" For example, if someone had asked Chloe about her weekend, she could have said, "I had a lovely, quiet weekend. I spent Saturday exploring the Northern Quarter, and I found a wonderful little independent bookshop. It was really nice. What about you? Did you get up to anything fun?" This simple formula creates a balanced two-way exchange, a true conversation rather than an interrogation. Armed with this invaluable new knowledge, Chloe felt a renewed sense of determination. She decided to try again. The following week in her sociology seminar, she made a point of sitting next to Liam. Before the lecture started, she took a deep, calming breath and turned to him. "Hi, Liam," she said with a small but genuine smile. "I was thinking about what you said last week about Manchester's charms. Besides the famous rain, what's one place you'd absolutely recommend I visit?" Liam's face instantly lit up, pleased that she had remembered their brief chat. "Oh, that's a great question. You should definitely check out the John Rylands Library. It looks like something straight out of a Harry Potter movie. It's absolutely amazing." Chloe smiled, feeling the conversation begin to flow. "That sounds wonderful. I love old buildings. In my city, Seoul, we have some beautiful ancient palaces, and just like that, a real conversation started. It wasn't perfectly smooth, but it was a start. She was no longer standing on one side of a chasm. She was actively building a bridge. Chloe's journey beautifully illustrates that small talk is a skill. And just like any other skill, it can be learned, practiced, and improved over time. It's a fundamental part of conversational English that helps you to build relationships, feel more comfortable in social settings, and become more integrated into a new culture. Listening intently to how native speakers engage in small talk is a fantastic way to learn. Pay close attention to the types of questions they ask, the safe topics they choose, like weather, hobbies, travel, food, and recent entertainment, and the subtle techniques they use to keep the conversation moving forward. Let's practice an effective, open-ended small talk question right now. Repeat after me, trying to sound genuinely curious and friendly. "So, what have you been up to lately?" Listen to that friendly, relaxed intonation. It's a warm invitation for the other person to share something about their life. Let's try it one more time. "So, what have you been up to lately, C or Z?" You'll find this is a much more engaging and effective conversation starter than simply saying, "How are you?" It opens the door to a more interesting and meaningful exchange, helping you to transform yourself from a shy, silent observer into an active, confident participant in any social situation. Now that we've seen how to better navigate face-to-face interactions, from ordering in a cafe to making small talk at a party, let's tackle a challenge that many English learners find even more daunting: the phone call. This brings us to the story of Yuki, a thoughtful young woman from Japan who had recently moved to the United States to pursue her postgraduate studies. One Tuesday morning, Yuki woke up feeling quite unwell, with a sore throat and a fever. She knew she needed to see a doctor, which meant she had to do something that filled her with a profound sense of dread. Make an appointment over the phone. On the phone, there are absolutely no visual cues to aid comprehension. You can't see the other person's facial expressions, their lip movements, or their hand gestures to help you understand. All you have to rely on is their voice, which can sometimes be unclear due to a bad phone connection, distracting background noise, or, as we've learned, the sheer speed of their speech. Yuki found the number for the university's health clinic online, took a very deep, calming breath, and dialed. A receptionist answered the phone, speaking incredibly quickly in a standard practice greeting. University Health Services, this is Brenda. How may I help you? It came out as one long, jumbled stream of sound. Yuki's mind raced to process the words. She managed to catch the gist of it, and after a second's hesitation said, "Hello. I would like to make an appointment to see a doctor, please." The receptionist replied in a businesslike tone, "Okay, are you a registered student?" "Yes, I am," Yuki confirmed. "All right, can I get your student ID number and your date of birth, please?" Yuki carefully recited the information. Then the receptionist said something that sounded to Yuki like, "Do you have your insurance card handy?" It was said so fast with no pauses that it sounded like a single, impossibly long word. Yuki had absolutely no idea what she had just said. A familiar feeling of panic began to bubble up inside her. Instead of guessing or just staying silent, Yuki remembered a useful, polite phrase she had practiced for exactly this kind of situation. She took a breath and said calmly and clearly, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you say it again, please?" The receptionist's tone immediately softened and became more helpful. "Of course, sweetie," she said, speaking much more slowly this time. "Do you have your insurance card handy?" "I'll need the policy number from the card." Yes, I do," Yuki said, immensely relieved. She found the card in her wallet and read the numbers to the receptionist. The receptionist then offered her a couple of appointment times. "Okay, we have an opening at 2:15 p.m. tomorrow, which is Wednesday, or 4:40 p.m. on Thursday. Which of those would you prefer?" Listening to times and numbers over the phone can be notoriously tricky. The similar sounds of 15 and 50 or 13 and 30 can easily lead to misunderstandings. Yuki wanted to be absolutely sure she had the correct time, so she used another powerful verbal technique, confirmation. "Okay, so just to confirm," she said carefully, "that's an appointment for 2:15 in the afternoon tomorrow." "That's correct," the receptionist replied. "We'll see you tomorrow at 2:15. By the end of the call, Yuki had successfully and accurately made her doctor's appointment. She hung up the phone and felt a huge sense of relief and, more importantly, pride. The call had been scary, but she had navigated it successfully by using a few simple, strategic phrases. This experience taught her that phone conversations have their own unique set of rules and require a specific set of listening and speaking skills. Yuki's success in that stressful situation came down to 3 key actions. First, and most importantly, she wasn't afraid to admit she didn't understand and politely asked for repetition. This is never a sign of weakness, On the contrary, it's a sign of a smart, active listener who is committed to clear communication. Second, she asked for clarification on specific details. When the receptionist's speech was too fast to comprehend, simply asking her to say it again solved the problem instantly. Third, she proactively confirmed the crucial information, like the time and date of the appointment, to make absolutely sure there were no misunderstandings. This is a fantastic habit to get into, even for native speakers, to ensure that everyone is, as Isabella learned, on the same page. When you're practicing your English listening, it's an excellent idea to specifically seek out and listen to phone conversations. You can find countless examples in movies, TV shows, and even in specially designed language learning materials. Pay close attention to the specific, formulaic phrases that people use to start a call. Hello, this is... Ask for information. I'm calling about. Clarify details. Could you spell that for me, please? And end the conversation politely. Thank you very much for your help. Goodbye. Let's practice one of those essential clarification phrases right now. Imagine you are on the phone and someone gives you a name or a street address that you're not sure how to spell. You can use this phrase. Repeat after me, focusing on the polite questioning intonation. Could you please spell that out for me? Notice the polite and clear tone, which makes the request easy to understand and follow. Let's try it one more time. Could you please spell that out for me? Having phrases like this, ready and practiced in your mind, can make a world of difference to your confidence during a real phone call. It effectively turns a potential moment of panic into a manageable and easily solvable problem. Yuki's experience shows us that with the right strategies and a little bit of courage, even the most intimidating listening challenges can be overcome, one clear and confident phrase at a time. Now let's explore another practical area of daily life where clear listening and speaking are essential. Handling problems and complaints. It's a situation nobody enjoys, but knowing how to navigate it politely can make a huge difference. Let's meet Samuel, a thoughtful architect from Poland who was living in London. For his birthday, he treated himself to a brand new pair of expensive noise-canceling headphones, something he had wanted for a long time to help him focus in his busy, open-plan office. For 2 weeks, they worked perfectly. The sound was incredible, and they blocked out all distractions. He was thrilled. But then, one morning, he put them on and there was just silence. No power, nothing. He tried charging them for hours. He reset them. He read the manual from front to back, but they were completely dead. A feeling of deep frustration washed over him. He had spent a lot of money on what was now just a useless piece of plastic. He knew he had to call customer service, a prospect that made him almost as anxious as Yuki felt about calling the doctor. Complaining in a second language can feel very confrontational and difficult. He was worried he wouldn't be able to explain the technical problem clearly, or that he would get frustrated and sound rude. Before making the call, he took a moment to prepare. He wrote down the model number of the headphones, the date he purchased them, and a few simple sentences to describe the problem. This small act of preparation made him feel much more in control. He dialed the number. After a few automated menus, a calm voice said, "Thank you for calling TechZone. You're speaking with Sarah. How can I help you today?" Samuel took a breath and began, using the sentences he had prepared. "Hello, Sarah. I'm calling to report an issue with a recent purchase. I bought a pair of your QC50 headphones 2 weeks ago and they've suddenly stopped working. Sarah replied in a professional, empathetic tone, "Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. I can certainly help you look into this. Could you please provide me with the serial number located on the inside of the right ear cup?" Samuel provided the number. Then Sarah began what is known as troubleshooting. "Okay, thank you, Samuel. Just to be sure, have you tried charging them with a different cable and power adapter?" "Yes, I have," Samuel replied. "I charged them overnight with my phone's charger and still nothing." "I see," said Sarah. "And you've tried holding down the power button for 30 seconds to perform a hard reset?" "Yes, I tried that as well." By clearly and calmly answering the troubleshooting questions, Samuel was demonstrating that the product was genuinely faulty. Sarah paused for a moment and then said, "It does sound like you have a faulty unit, and since it's well within the warranty period, we can arrange for a replacement to be sent to you. I just need to get a few more details." She confirmed his address and told him a new pair would be shipped and would arrive in 3 to 5 business days. She also explained that a return label would be emailed to him so he could send the broken pair back. At the end of the call, she gave him a reference number for their conversation. Samuel diligently wrote it down. He ended the call by saying, "Thank you very much for your help, Sarah. I appreciate it." When he hung up, Samuel felt a sense of accomplishment. He had successfully handled a difficult situation. His preparation was key, but so was his approach. He remained calm, explained the problem clearly and simply, and listened carefully to the instructions given by the customer service agent. This story teaches us an important lesson. When you have a complaint, your tone of voice is incredibly important. If you start the conversation angry and aggressive, the other person may become defensive. But if you are polite, calm, and factual, you are much more likely to get a positive result. Listening is also critical. You need to listen carefully to the questions being asked and the solutions being offered. And just like Yuki, confirming details and writing down important information like a reference number is a very smart strategy. Let's practice a useful phrase for a situation like this. Imagine you are on the phone with customer service. Repeat after me. Trying to sound calm and clear, "I'm calling about a problem with my order." One more time. "I'm calling about a problem with my order." This is a perfect opening line. It's direct, polite, and immediately tells the person why you are calling. Mastering these kinds of practical, real-world conversations is a huge step towards true fluency and confidence in English. From solving problems, let's move to a much more pleasant type of conversation, connecting with new people by discussing hobbies and interests. This is where you can truly let your personality shine and move beyond basic small talk into the realm of real friendship. Let's imagine a story about two people, Maria and Ben. Maria, a university lecturer from Spain, had recently moved to a small town in the English countryside. She loved her new job but was feeling a bit lonely. One Saturday, she decided to spend the afternoon in a local coffee shop with a good book. As she was deeply engrossed in her novel, a man at the next table who was sketching in a notebook caught her eye. He had a kind face and was drawing the street scene outside the window with incredible skill. Eventually, he packed up his things to leave. As he walked past her table, he glanced at her book cover and smiled. "That's a fantastic book," he said. "The ending is brilliant." This was Ben. Maria was a little surprised but pleased. "Oh, you've read it?" she asked. I have, Ben replied. I'm a huge fan of that author. I'm Ben, by the way. I'm Maria. It's nice to meet you. Ben gestured to her book. So, I take it you're into reading? This question opened the door for a real conversation. Maria's face lit up. Yes, I absolutely love it. Reading fiction helps me unwind after a long week. I get to escape to different worlds. What about you? Besides being a very talented artist, she said, nodding toward his sketchbook. What do you like to do in your free time? Ben laughed. Well, drawing is my main passion, but I also love getting outdoors. I do a lot of hiking in the hills around here. It helps me clear my head and get away from it all. This was a perfect example of a developing conversation. They were using descriptive language. Maria didn't just say, I like reading. She said it helps her unwind and escape to different worlds. Ben didn't just say, I like hiking. He said it helps him clear his head and get away from it all. These phrases are rich with meaning and tell you more about the person's feelings and motivations. The conversation continued to grow. Maria asked, Hiking sounds wonderful. I haven't explored much of the countryside yet. Are the trails well marked? Ben replied, Most of them are, yes. Some of the views are just breathtaking, especially in the early morning. I sometimes take my camera with me to try and capture the light. I'm into photography as well, though I'm still an amateur. By sharing these details, they were giving each other more hooks to latch onto. Maria could now ask about his photography, or Ben could ask Maria what other authors she enjoyed. This is how connections are formed. You start with a small shared interest, and then you explore it with curious questions and by sharing your own related experiences. Listening plays a massive role in these conversations. You need to listen for the passion in someone's voice. When Ben talked about the breathtaking views, Maria could hear that this was something he genuinely loved. This allows you to ask more personal and engaging follow-up questions like, what's the most beautiful view you've ever photographed? This shows you are not just hearing the words, but you are listening to the person. This kind of active, empathetic listening is the fastest way to build rapport and friendship. Let's practice a phrase you can use to talk about your own interests. Think about your favorite hobby. Now, try to complete this sentence and say it out loud. Repeat the frame after me. In my free time, I'm really into. And then add your hobby. For example, in my free time, I'm really into cooking. Now let's add the why. Repeat this frame because it helps me be creative. Now put it all together with your own hobby and reason. For instance, in my free time, I'm really into gardening because it helps me relax and connect with nature. Practicing sentences like this prepares you for those wonderful conversations where you get to share a piece of who you are with someone new. Finally, let's explore one of the ultimate listening challenges: understanding multiple diverse accents in a single conversation. This is an increasingly common situation in our globalized world of remote work and international teams. Let's meet Anya, a highly organized project manager from South Africa who works for a global marketing firm. Her team was spread across the world, and their weekly progress meeting on video call was a masterclass in accents. Her team included Ewan from Glasgow, Scotland, Brenda from Texas, USA, and Raj from Bangalore, India. The meeting began. Her boss, located in New York, kicked things off. Then it was Ewan's turn to give an update. Ewan had a thick Glaswegian accent and he spoke very quickly. "Aye, so the campaign's going pure brilliant," he'd say. We got a load of engagement, but the wee banner ad isn't getting many clicks, so we'll need to have a think about that. Anya had to focus all of her mental energy to decipher his speech. She learned to listen for the unique music of his accent, the I for yes, the we for small, and the nay for negative verbs. She couldn't catch every word, but she trained herself to grab the keywords: campaign brilliant, engagement good, banner add no clicks. Next up was Brenda from Texas. Her accent was completely different. She spoke in a slow, melodic drawl. "Well, howdy y'all," she'd begin. "Down here, our focus groups are fixin' to give us some real good feedback. I reckon we'll have the full report for y'all by Tuesday." Brenda's speech was easier to follow in terms of speed, but her vocabulary was full of regionalisms like fixin' to, meaning about to, and I reckon, meaning I think. Anya had to mentally switch gears, moving from Ewan's fast-paced Scottish rhythm to Brenda's slow southern melody. Then it was Raj's turn to report from Bangalore. Raj spoke English perfectly, but with the distinctive rhythm and intonation of Indian English. He would place stress on different syllables in a word, which could sometimes make familiar words sound new. The back-end development is proceeding as per the schedule, he might say, stressing the second syllable of proceeding. There are no major issues to report at this current point in time. His speech was very clear and precise, but Anya had to actively adjust her listening expectations for his unique sentence stress and rhythm. For Anya, leading these meetings was initially exhausting. It felt like her brain was running a marathon, constantly switching between different linguistic channels. But over time, she developed strategies. The most important one was to not panic. When she didn't understand something, she learned to politely interject. She wouldn't just say, "I don't understand," she would be specific. For example, "Sorry, Ewan, I just want to make sure I got that. You said the banner ad performance was low?" By repeating back what she thought she heard, she gave him a chance to confirm or correct her, without making him feel that his accent was a problem. Using the visual cues of the video call was also a huge help. She watched their lip movements and their facial expressions, which provided extra layers of context. Her experience shows that understanding different accents is a skill that is developed purely through exposure and practice. The more you listen to a specific accent, the more your brain gets used to its unique patterns, and the easier it becomes to understand. In today's world, you have an incredible opportunity to do this. You can watch a movie from the UK one day, a TV series from Australia the next, and a YouTuber from India the day after that. Actively seeking out these different voices is one of the best things you can do to train your ear and become a truly global communicator. Let's end with a practice that's more of a mindset shift than a specific phrase. When you encounter an accent that is difficult for you, it's easy to think, "Their English is strange," or "I can't understand them." I want you to replace that thought with a more positive and accurate one. Say this out loud with me. Every accent is just a different style of English, and I can learn to understand it. Let's say it again with confidence. Every accent is just a different style of English, and I can learn to understand it. Believing this is the first and most important step. It transforms a frustrating barrier into an interesting and achievable challenge. We have journeyed through so many different and relatable scenarios today, from Leo ordering a scone in a Dublin cafe and Isabella cracking the code of office idioms. to Mateo navigating fast Australian speech and Chloe building the bridge of small talk. We then followed Yuki as she conquered her fear of phone calls, stood with Samuel as he calmly handled a customer complaint, sat with Maria and Ben as they discovered a shared passion, and finally joined Anya in her complex, multi-accent virtual meeting. Each of these stories has given us a valuable window into the real, unscripted world of conversational English and has provided us with practical, actionable lessons for our own learning paths. As we come to the end of our practice session together, I want to bring all of these diverse ideas together and leave you with some final thoughts and heartfelt encouragement. The single most important golden thread that connects all of these stories is the undeniable power of active, mindful listening. Improving your English listening skills is not a passive activity. It's not about just letting English audio play in the background while you cook or clean or browse the internet. True improvement comes from engaging your brain, paying keen attention to the small details, and maintaining a deep sense of curiosity about the language that you're hearing. It's about consciously noticing the subtle vowel sound in a new word, questioning the figurative meaning of a strange-sounding idiom, paying attention to the natural rhythm, stress, and intonation of a complete sentence, and adapting your ear to the music of different accents. Please remember that the path to fluency is not a straight, easy, upward-sloping line. There will inevitably be moments of confusion, periods of frustration, and even some embarrassing situations, just as all of our characters experience today. These moments are not failures. In fact, they are the most important and potent learning opportunities you will ever have. When you misunderstand something, you are given a golden chance to learn something new and unforgettable. When you feel lost in a conversation, you are given a perfect chance to practice the vital skill of asking for clarification. Every single mistake is a clear sign that you are pushing your boundaries, stepping out of your comfort zone, and growing as a language user. I urge you to embrace these moments. Don't be afraid of them. Welcome them as the valuable teachers they are. The most effective strategy is to build a consistent, sustainable habit of daily exposure to real, authentic English. The key to consistency is to find things that you genuinely enjoy listening to. If you love to cook, immerse yourself in English language cooking shows. If you're passionate about science and technology, listen to podcasts on those subjects. If you love to laugh, watch stand-up comedy specials or sitcoms. When you are genuinely engaged and interested in the content, learning ceases to feel like a chore. It seamlessly becomes a natural, effortless, and enjoyable part of your everyday life. And as you listen, please always remember to also practice speaking. The connection between your listening and speaking skills is a powerful, symbiotic one. The more you hear the authentic sounds, rhythms, and cadences of English, the more your own speech will begin to sound natural, fluid, and confident. Don't wait for that mythical day when you feel ready or perfect to start speaking. That day will never come. Start today, right now. You can begin small simply by repeating phrases from this podcast out loud. You can get into the habit of talking to yourself in English, describing your day, your plans, or your thoughts. You can find a language partner online through one of the many available platforms. Every single time you open your mouth to speak English, you are building your confidence, strengthening your neural pathways, and reinforcing everything you have learned through listening. I want to sincerely thank you for joining me today here at English in Advance. I truly hope that these stories and the tips woven throughout them have inspired you and given you a clearer, more confident path forward. Your personal journey to mastering conversational English is a marathon, not a sprint. Please be patient and kind with yourself. Remember to celebrate your small victories along the way. And most importantly of all, stay curious. Keep listening, keep exploring, and keep engaging with this beautiful, wonderfully complex, and ultimately incredibly rewarding language. I'm Jessica, and I very much look forward to seeing you again in our next session. Until then, happy learning.